Hey YouTube, this is Cold Water from Phantom Trading, and welcome to our video on trading tilt. Now in this video, of course, we're going to be discussing what trading tilt is and how it relates to trading psychology. But let's start with that. What is trading tilt? Well, trading tilt occurs when a trader experiences a string of losses or even break-even trades and becomes overly emotional about the outcome of his or her trades, which leads to feelings of anger, frustration, hopelessness, etc. Professional traders can still get into situations where they get tilted, but oftentimes they're better equipped to handle these negative emotions or rarely experience them because they possess a trading psychology and a set of beliefs that stops them from getting easily tilted in the first place. Getting tilted as a trader or being on tilt as a trader can lead to making poor trading decisions in order for the trader to reach an emotional equilibrium. So being on tilt is a volatile emotional state, which can lead to things like revenge trading if it's not handled properly. So most of you are probably familiar with the term tilt from Texas Hold'em poker, as it's a term that's often thrown around for players who are losing control of their emotions and oftentimes are becoming really aggressive with their betting, right? So believe it or not, poker actually relates heavily to trading in the sense that it's a game that involves probabilities and emotional discipline, and of course, tilt. So tilt is the same thing in poker, a volatile emotional state which leads players to make mistakes, such as being overly aggressive, as I previously mentioned, which again can lead to major losses if the player lacks discipline to keep those emotions under control. Being on tilt impairs your ability to think and make good decisions, whether it's in poker or in trading. It's a lot like being drunk, right? It really impairs your decision making, right? You wouldn't hop into a car and drive while you're drunk, and you shouldn't trade while you're drunk on emotions from your last string of losses. So let's talk about some of the dangers of trading while being on tilt or being tilted as a trader. So number one is you'll revenge trade to make up for losses, and revenge trading is easily the most common mistake that traders make when they're tilted. Chances are you're guilty of it, whether you want to admit it to yourself or not. I know I am. And we've all revenge traded early on in our trading careers because it's just human nature, right? You'll often get frustrated over a loss, whether the trade you took was valid or not within your trading plan. And you'll be upset over the outcome because you thought it would work. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But the idea is no one purposely puts on a trade to lose, right? We all put on trades to make money on them, the expectation to make money on them, right? Now, you're experiencing pain, likely because you've lost for the day, so you attempt to enter the market again to try to cover your losses and potentially turn your negative day into a positive one. Now, this is obviously a really dangerous practice, right? Maybe you end up taking another loss because you entered a trade that was low probability and that didn't fit the plan again. Right? You may be able to see why this is a very slippery slope, right? It's a lot like gambling in the market. Revenge trading is like throwing gasoline over a proverbial fire to extinguish it, and it can quickly spiral into a huge string of losses if you're not careful. Even worse, say you win a low probability setup or a trade setup that isn't valid within your plan. You've now taught yourself that this behavior, revenge trading, is okay, and you were rewarded for it. Right? And in the long run, when you get into the situation again and see another invalid trade setup or low probability trade setup, you'll do it again and eventually blow your account because you're deviating from your plan, right? You're teaching yourself bad habits. The second most common thing that people do when they're tilted, or traders do when they're tilted, is that they'll overtrade. And overtrading and revenge trading are honestly close cousins in the family of dangerous trading habits, but really overtrading can be revenge trading, and revenge trading can turn into overtrading. The key difference, though, is that with revenge trading, traders are usually trying to make up for losses, whereas with overtrading, it can be a result of trying to recover losses or because you've become overconfident from a string of big wins. One could also argue that you can be on tilt after a string of winning trades too, because you're basically so emotionally high off of those wins that it impairs your judgment and your decision making the same way a string of losses would, just in the opposite way. This is why traders who win big and don't have control over their emotions, aka trading psychology skills, often give their winnings back. And that's not something that we want to do. So this next one, the third point, is hesitation, fear of loss, and chasing trades. And personally, this is one that I've struggled with the most, is being afraid to enter when there's a valid setup right in front of me, or hesitating on it. I don't so much chase trades personally anymore because I've learned my lesson from doing it in the past. It's a lot like touching a hot stove, right? You learn pretty quick that you're going to burn your hand doing that. So it's much like that. But if we compare this to the previous one, which is over trading, this is pretty much on the opposite end of the spectrum of that, right? So it's traders who are tilted. They end up hesitating to execute on high probability setups in their system because of fear of loss, right? They're afraid of losing that trade and the trade hitting their stop loss, right? And subsequently, they try to chase trades after that original trade idea had already played out and goes without them, right? Leading to, a poor position. Maybe they get a poor fill, or they're just chasing it and maybe price is going to come back down to take you out on your stop loss because you entered way too late, right? Of course, this can turn into revenge trading and over trading as well if the trader doesn't have the discipline to accept that they've missed the trade and move on. So this is a bit of a catch-22, right? Because if you're going to hesitate and enter late, it's a lot riskier than entering when you should be. And again, you need to have the discipline to be able to, just sit out of it if you miss it the first time around, right? And that's a big skill as well that you need to develop. So let's talk about fear of missing out and second guessing your analysis and system. And so last but not least, tilt can also lead to fear of missing out and second guessing your trade ideas, even if they're valid. So this is much like, our previous one, right? This can have a negative impact on your equity curve because you'll miss out on trade ideas that are valid and do work out while taking subpar setups to make up for it. So it's really very similar to the previous point that we kind of talked about. Okay, so moving on, how do we deal with being tilted as a trader? Well, point one is know your limit and play within it. First and foremost, every trader should have a daily and weekly limit that they follow, which essentially they completely stop trading once they hit that limit, or they hit a certain percent drawdown or number of consecutive losses, right? The same can be applied to winning streaks in order to minimize giving your profits back to the market, right? Limits are a key tool that I personally use and that every professional trader, in my opinion, should be using. In my case, I'll do a maximum of 2 to 3 losses per day or 5 losses per week, and I'll halt trading until the end of the week, if we're talking about per week, or till the end of the day if I hit that 2 or 3 loss limit, right? And what I'll do is I'll actually close my trading terminal so the temptation to trade or revenge trade isn't there, right? If my terminal's not open, how can I execute the trade, right? So the other thing you can do is keep a detailed journal and review all of your trades. Now, this is really important, right? We've talked about journaling in the past, and we suggest that you keep a detailed journal for both your emotions and your actual trades, whether that's using an online journal like Swift Journal or using Notion. But we also recommend using a small physical journal for writing down how you're feeling before, while in positions, and after closing them out, so you can reflect upon your emotions for that particular trade or for that day. And by reflecting on your emotions, you'll identify whether or not you are sabotaging yourself. And you can also identify certain blind spots that maybe you have where maybe your emotions are maybe you're getting drunk on emotions and getting tilted and you're not even aware of it, right? So it's part of it is being aware of what you're doing while you're trading and what you're thinking and how you're feeling, right? So personally, I like to write out about how I'm feeling while I'm in a trade and a little bit before the trade, before I actually execute it. And I'll compare it to how I feel once the trade has played out, right? I ask myself if I was anxious, was I pissed off and trying to get back at the market for a previous loss, right? Common pitfall that traders fall into. And did that result in revenge trading? So now let's talk a little bit about, when trading can develop or devolve into gambling, right? It's your responsibility to self-regulate as a trader. You don't have anybody there that's stopping you like, you would in in an institutional environment where you're trading, typically you have somebody that is dedicated to helping you with risk management, right? If you're on a string of losses, they'll tell you, reduce your risk, right? Type of thing. But remember, as a retail trader, it is your responsibility at the end of the day to control your impulses and regulate your trading so that your mental health and your P&L remain intact, right? While it can be difficult to regulate yourself early on as a trader, it should be a huge priority to develop those good habits so you manage your risk effectively and efficiently, and you have a better chance of building a sustainable career in trading professionally in the long term, right? So super important you understand risk management. If you haven't already, check out our risk management series on the Phantom Trading YouTube channel. We also have some articles on the website that go in more depth about it too, right? And that's all free for you guys to access on YouTube and on the website. And last but not least, if you think you have an addiction to gambling, whether it's in the market or through online casinos, go get professional help ASAP, right? If you feel like you're really going off the rails and are completely violating your trading rules, risk management rules, and you're compulsively gambling in the market to make up for losses, stop trading and get professional help right away, right? It's serious. For some people, trading can turn into compulsive gambling, which can potentially destroy your financial life and your life in general, right? So it's important to practice responsible trading, right? If you or a friend or a loved one has a gambling problem, consider getting help. Anyways, that pretty much concludes the video for you guys. I hope you guys learned something about trading tilt. It's a pretty quick video, but I think we went into some pretty good depth here. This is obviously a trading psychology video at the end of the day, so I hope you guys got something from it.